The war is over, but one man stayed. The war had ended, but silence felt heavier than the explosions ever did. Broken machines lay across the red soil. Black smoke still rose from the bodies of alien warships. Human soldiers were leaving the planet, getting into their dropships. Most were smiling. They were going home, but Captain Raylan did not move. He stood alone near a destroyed watchtower. His uniform was dirty and torn. He held a helmet in his hands, not his own. It was smaller, made for a local, someone from this planet. Someone who didn't survive. A soft wind blew ashes across the battlefield. Behind Raylan, a woman stood, quietly, holding a small boy in her arms. The boy had strange green eyes, wide and full of fear. Her name was Ayla. Her child's name was Kale. They were the reason Raylan stayed. 2 weeks ago, during a brutal battle, Raylan's squad had taken cover in a small village. It was supposed to be empty. It wasn't. The aliens had left behind a few civilians, women, children, abandoned during the retreat. Many soldiers ignored them. Orders were clear. Do not engage. Move forward. But Raylan had found Ayla and Kale hiding in a basement, trapped under rubble. He had pulled them out. When the alien soldiers returned that night, Raylan fought alone to protect them. He was wounded, but he didn't let them die. Now, the war was over, and his team was going home. But Raylan made a choice. He would not leave. "You're crazy," his commander had said over the radio. "This planet is no longer our responsibility. Come back, that's an order." Raylan turned off the comm. He looked down at Kale, who was hiding behind Ayla's legs. The boy didn't speak much, but he had started drawing. Strange shapes, strange machines. Sometimes they looked like human tech, sometimes like alien. Ayla didn't speak English well, but she understood enough. "Thank you," she said softly. Raylan nodded. He didn't need thanks. He just couldn't forget how the boy had clung to him, crying when the gunfire stopped. How Ayla had risked her life to cover her child. Some things were more important than orders. At night, the planet didn't rest. Strange sounds came from the forests. The animals were different now. Mutated, maybe. Or worse. Left behind by the enemy. Raylan kept his rifle close and stayed awake while Ayla and Kale slept. One night, he saw movement near the trees. Something tall. Not human. It watched him, then disappeared into the dark. The war was over, but danger still lived here. Raylan started setting up traps near the village. He repaired an old drone and used it to patrol the area. He found strange footprints near the river. Large, heavy. They didn't match any species he knew. Was the enemy really gone? Or had they just gone underground? One morning, while checking the edge of the forest, Raylan found an old alien bunker. The door was half open. He stepped inside with his weapon ready. Dust covered the walls. Alien text glowed faintly on the control panels. Then he heard a sound, a small beep. He turned and saw a message blinking on the screen. He didn't understand the language, but one symbol repeated again and again. A symbol that Kyle often drew. Raylan's eyes narrowed. His heart beat faster. What did it mean? He took a photo of the screen and returned to the house. Kale looked at the symbol and tilted his head. Then he went to a corner and started drawing again. This time faster, more detailed. He was making something. Maybe a map. Maybe a machine. Raylan watched quietly. Something was happening. This child, he wasn't just a survivor. He was connected to something bigger. Later that day, Raylan climbed the old tower near the village. He looked out across the horizon. Human ships were gone now. He was truly alone. No, not alone. Behind him, Ayla brought him some food. Kale followed, holding a new drawing. Raylan smiled for the first time in days. A small smile. Tired but real. He looked at the sky. If the war was over, Why did it feel like something worse was coming? And why was the enemy still watching? Shadows in the night. The nights had grown quieter. Too quiet. Captain Raylan never liked silence. During the war, silence meant ambush. Silence meant someone was watching. On this night, something felt wrong. A soft wind moved through the broken trees. The ruins of the village stood still under the pale green moonlight. Everything looked normal. But Raylan didn't trust normal anymore. He sat by the window, holding a pulse rifle in his lap. His finger hovered near the trigger, but his eyes kept going back to the same spot. The tree line about 50 meters out. Shadows moved there sometimes. Too tall, too smooth. Not animals. He didn't tell Ayla. She was finally getting some sleep. Kale was asleep too, curled up under a worn-out thermal blanket, still holding a small toy Raylan had made for him from scrap parts. But something was coming. Raylan could feel it in his bones. The same way he had felt incoming fire before it ever touched the ground. Then, just past midnight, he heard it. A soft click-click sound. Too light for a footstep, too slow for a machine. Raylan stood up silently. He checked his rifle, flicked on the infrared scope, and stared into the trees. Nothing, just branches, just fog. Then the sound again, closer. He moved out the door and crouched behind a low wall. The village was quiet. His traps were still in place. Motion sensors had picked up nothing, but he knew something was there. And then, from inside the house, a scream. Ayla's voice. Raylan rushed back in, gun ready. But the room was empty. No Ayla. No Kale. His heart dropped. No. No, no. He turned, and then something knocked him down hard. A shadow moved fast. It wasn't shaped like a man. Thin arms, long neck. No eyes. Just a glowing line across its face. Alien. It moved like a ghost, but its strength was real. Raylan slammed it with the rifle butt. It hissed and backed off. He fired 3 shots. The creature dodged the first 2, but the third hit its leg. It didn't scream. It just stopped, looked at him, and then ran. Fast, almost too fast to follow. Raylan got up, bleeding from the forehead. He grabbed a flashlight and followed. He ran through the village, past broken homes and shattered fences. And then, near the edge of the forest, he found them. Ayla was on the ground, bruised but alive. She had a knife in her hand, covered in thick, dark alien blood. Kale stood behind her unharmed, but he wasn't crying. He was staring at the forest, straight ahead, eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. Raylan pulled them back to safety. Later, after tending wounds and checking traps again, he sat down beside Kale. "What happened?" he asked softly. Kale looked at him for a long time. Then he whispered just one word. "They're watching." Raylan's stomach turned cold. "Who?" Kale didn't answer. Instead, he pointed at his drawing pad. It had a new sketch, a strange shape, long, thin, sharp. Not a ship, not a man. A symbol floated above it, the same one Raylan had seen in the alien bunker. Ayla sat nearby, her hands shaking. "I saw it," she said quietly. "Not the one that attacked. Another one. Standing far away, just watching. Like a shadow with eyes." Raylan looked at her. "How many?" "A few. Maybe 5. Maybe more." Raylan stood and walked outside. The air was colder now. Even the wind felt different. He checked the traps again. One of them, a pressure mine, was disabled. Carefully, not damaged, disarmed. "These aren't wild creatures," he muttered. "They're trained." Inside, Kale had started drawing again. This time, a map, the forest, a cave, and at the center, the same alien symbol glowing bright. "He's remembering things," Ayla said. "From his father's side, from the other blood." Raylan stared at the boy. "He's not just remembering. He's connected to them." "So what do we do?" Raylan picked up his rifle and loaded fresh rounds. "We stop waiting," he said. "We find out who's really still here. The next morning, Raylan went alone into the forest. He followed the direction Cale had drawn. The trees grew tighter. The sunlight faded even though it was early. Every step felt like walking into a throat. He found the cave. It was covered in alien vines. Tech was fused into the rock, cables, blinking lights, organic wires. He stepped in carefully. Inside, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Pods, alien. Stasis pods. 5 of them. 2 were open. 1 was leaking. Inside the 4th, something floated, still alive, and on the wall, the same glowing symbol again, but this time, it pulsed like a heartbeat. Raylan backed out slowly. On the way back, he saw fresh footprints, not his own, not human. They were following him. They knew he had found them. That night, Raylan told Ayla the truth. This isn't over. This wasn't just a leftover scout. This is something bigger. Something waiting to finish what the war started. He looked down at Cale. And they want him. The child is special. Cale stood near the fire, staring into the flames as if they were talking to him. Ayla watched him with tired eyes. She didn't say anything. Neither did Raylan. He just cleaned his weapon slowly, but his eyes never left the boy. Something had changed since the attack. Cale hadn't cried. He hadn't screamed. He hadn't even blinked when that creature tried to take him. Instead, he had calmly pointed at the cave in the forest, like he knew that was where they came from. Raylan had seen a lot during the war. Monsters, weapons, betrayal. But he had never seen a child act like this. The boy was only 6 years old, and yet, sometimes, he looked older than Raylan himself. That morning, Raylan tested something. He took a broken alien device, a small cube that no one had been able to activate. It had strange symbols on it, dead tech like everything else left behind after the war. He placed it in front of Cale. "Can you touch this?" he asked softly. Cale nodded once. As soon as his fingers touched the cube, it came to life. A soft humming sound started. The symbols glowed blue, then white. The cube opened slightly, showing a spinning core inside. Tiny holograms appeared around. A map, symbols, data. Ayla stepped back in shock. Raylan leaned closer. "How are you doing that?" Cale looked at him. "I don't know," he said. "It just listens." "What listens?" Kyle looked up at the sky. All of them. Later, Ayla told Raylan the truth. Cale's father was not fully human. She had never spoken about him during the war. It had been too dangerous. The alien species they had fought, the Threx, had controlled most of the planet, and anyone who mixed with them was seen as a traitor. But not all Threx were loyal to the Empire. Some had rebelled. Ayla's husband was one of them, a scientist who had fallen in love with her and tried to stop the war from the inside. "They killed him before the final battle," she said. "But he left something behind, not just Cale. Knowledge." "What kind of knowledge?" Raylan asked. Ayla hesitated. Something about a key. He said Cale would be the key. I thought he meant to peace. But now I'm not sure. The next night, Cale started sleepwalking. He walked out of the house, barefoot, silent, into the trees. Raylan followed without making a sound. Cale stopped at a small pond. The moon reflected in the water. He touched the surface lightly with one finger, and then, from beneath the water, something rose. A metal hand. Raylan rushed forward and pulled Cale back, but the water calmed. Nothing else appeared. Only bubbles and a faint green glow under the surface. Raylan checked the pond the next morning. He found a submerged structure, something deep underground, alien-made, shielded, hidden during the war. This planet was never just a battlefield, Raylan said. It was a vault. A vault for what? Ayla asked. For whatever Kyle is connected to. Back at the village, they were not alone anymore. Raylan's traps were being taken apart one by one. Someone was testing him. One night, he caught a figure near the edge of the forest, tall, wrapped in shadow. It didn't attack. It just stood there and watched. They're not here to kill us, Raylan said. Not yet. They want the boy, and they want him alive. Why? Ayla asked. Raylan looked at Kale, who was now drawing alien blueprints from memory. Because he's more than just part alien. He's something else, something new. Raylan activated the old transmitter. He boosted the signal using the alien cube. It sent a burst transmission toward deep space. He coded it simple. Not all enemies gone. Child is target. He is key. Send help. He didn't know if anyone would answer, but someone did. 6 hours later, a signal came back. Encrypted. Human, but not military. Just 3 words. You're not alone. And then a set of coordinates appeared. Raylan studied the location. It was across the mountain range, near the old crash zones. Too far to walk with a child. Too risky by foot. But maybe, just maybe, they had one chance. We're going to move, he said. They're getting closer every night. We won't survive another week here. Ayla nodded. She didn't argue. Kyle simply said, they won't let me go. Then we'll make them try. Before they left, Raylan prepared one last thing, a message left behind in the village set to play on loop. If you find this and we're gone, he is worth protecting. The war isn't over. It just changed shape. He left his dog tags beside it. They left before dawn. As they moved through the hills, Raylan looked back one last time. The village was quiet. But in the shadows, tall figures were already watching. And somewhere deep below, inside alien machines, lights were turning back on. They had waited long enough. The hunters returned. The skies changed before they arrived. Clouds moved faster. The wind grew colder. The birds, whatever strange creatures still flew here, had gone quiet. The planet felt like it was holding its breath. Raylan noticed it first. He stopped on a rocky ridge just before dawn. His eyes scanned the gray horizon. Kale and Ayla rested below, hidden behind rocks. They'd been walking all night, quiet, careful, always watching the trees. And then he saw it. A ripple in the sky. Too fast for a cloud. Too sharp for a shadow. A ship. Not human. Not from orbit either. It didn't land. It didn't need to. It released something. Hours later, the first attack came. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet death. Raylan had stepped away to scout a narrow pass in the mountains. When he came back, he saw Ayla standing frozen, her knife drawn, shaking. Beside her was a body. Not hers. Not Kale's. Something else. Thin. Dark. No eyes. Its body didn't bleed and it melted. The ground sizzled where it lay. It just appeared. She whispered. No sound. Nothing. Kyle was silent. He stood near the fire, holding something. A piece of the creature's armor. It looked burned, cracked, like he had touched it and something inside it had shut down. Raylan stepped closer. Did you do that? Kyle didn't answer. His eyes were glowing faintly again. They moved faster after that, across the broken cliffs, past old battlegrounds full of bones and rusted war machines. They hid during the day, traveled by night. But the hunters always followed, never close enough to see him, but always near. Sometimes Raylan found strange marks on the ground. Long slashes. Melted rock. Sometimes he heard clicks in the dark. The same sound from the night Kyle was nearly taken. But no full attack came. Not yet. They're testing us, Raylan said. Tracking us. They want to know how far we'll run before we break. Ayla looked at Kale. And if we don't run? Raylan loaded a fresh magazine into his rifle. Then we find out what we're really fighting. On the 5th day, they reached the crash zone. It was a valley of death. Giant pieces of metal lay half buried in the dirt. Old alien ships, human escape pods, destroyed tanks. Bones scattered across black soil. The battle here had been brutal. Final Kale stopped walking. His hand reached out toward a tall, broken alien tower. This was home, he whispered. Yours? Raylan asked. Kale shook his head. His. He pointed to the tower. They went inside. The tower was dead, but it still had memory. Raylan activated a panel using one of the alien cubes. It sparked to life, showing flickers of an old recording. A man appeared, not fully human, not fully alien. Tall, sharp-featured, but with human eyes. Kale stared at the image. His eyes filled with tears. "Father," he said softly. The message began, "If you are seeing this, then I am gone. But you are not. You are more. They will fear you. They will try to take you not because you are dangerous, but because you are the end of them. The Threx Empire was built on control. But you were born free. Remember that. Find the gate. It will listen to you. Only you." The message ended. The tower shut down. Kale fell to his knees. Raylan didn't understand everything. But he understood one thing clearly. Kale was not a weapon. He was a signal, a living code the enemy could never fully erase. And now the hunters were here to erase him for good. That night, the hunters stopped waiting. They came with speed, no warning, just movement in the dark, fast and fluid. Raylan was ready. He'd set traps in the old crash zone, mines, tripwires, hidden pulse charges. As soon as the enemy crossed the boundaries, boom. The night lit up with fire. 2 figures went down in the first blast. Raylan fired from above, picking targets fast and sharp. Ayla helped, firing an old pistol with shaking hands, but they kept coming, like shadows, like smoke. Raylan was surrounded. And then, Kale stepped forward. His hands glowed with light. Not fire, not energy, something deeper. One of the hunters rushed toward him. Raylan shouted, "No!" But Kale raised one hand and then the creature stopped, not from pain, not from damage. It froze, trembling, as if something inside it had recognized him. Then, it backed away, turned, and ran. The others paused. The glowing line across, their faces dimmed slightly, and they followed, disappearing into the dark. Silence returned. Smoke rose from the burning wrecks. Ayla collapsed to her knees. Raylan looked at Kale. "What did you do?" Kale answered in a whisper. I reminded them of what? Who I am. Later, Raylan checked the sky. No ships, no noise. The hunters were gone. For now, but not beaten. They were not just soldiers. They were something more. Old machines mixed with living code, part of the Threx Empire's last secret project. They had names. They had ranks, and the one leading them was still out there. The signal from orbit had been clear. Raylan had seen it on the tower screen before it died. Unit Omega. Recover the anomaly, or destroy all life, in the area. "They won't stop," Raylan said. Ayla looked at Kale. "What do we do?" Raylan looked at the broken stars above. "We find the gate. Whatever it is." He placed a hand on Kale's shoulder. "And we end this, not just for you, but for every human and every world the Empire tried to break." A message to Earth. For the first time in days, the sky was quiet. No shadows, no hunters, no movement. But Raylan didn't relax. Silence now only meant one thing. They were planning something bigger. He stood at the edge of the ruined valley, staring at the old satellite dish, torn apart, rusted, leaning sideways like a dying tree. It was part of an old human outpost crushed during the first wave of the war. It was their only hope to reach Earth. Behind him, Kale and Ayla waited near a cave entrance. They had moved higher into the mountains for cover. The air was colder, thinner, but safer, at least for now. Inside the broken outpost, Raylan got to work. He connected wires, spliced alien tech into human circuits. He used one of the glowing cubes Kale had powered days ago. It pulsed softly with energy now, steady and warm. "This isn't just a message," Raylan whispered. "It's a warning, and maybe a goodbye." 3 hours later, the tower came to life. Slowly. Groaning, lights blinked across the control. Panel 1 long beep, signal lock, unstable, range partial. Encryption required. He tapped the mic. Static answered. Then, a voice. Signal received. Identify. Raylan breathed out just once, then spoke. Captain Raylan J. Thorne, Unit 203, classified mission, Priority Alpha. You're supposed to be dead. Raylan almost smiled. Get in line. The voice changed. Sharper now. Female. Military. Location? Planet Zeta 6, Sector 12. Abandoned after the final siege. I'm not alone. You have hostages? I have a child, a half-human child. Threx hybrid. Silence. Static again. Then coldly. Terminate it. Raylan's heart stopped. Say that again. Terminate it. All hybrid experiments were ordered destroyed post-war. They're unstable. Dangerous. Ticking. Bombs. You're not cleared to extract. He stared at the mic, then slowly turned it off. Kyle was waiting outside. Raylan looked at him. Really looked this time. Not as a soldier, but as a man. As a guardian. Kale wasn't a mistake. He was a future no one understood yet, and that made him terrifying. To both sides. That night, Raylan sent a second message, this time to an old frequency, not military. Not official, a dead channel once used by rogue scientists and field agents who went off-grid during the war. People who saw the truth but were told to stay quiet. His message was short. Child is alive, hunted, has knowledge, power. The Empire feared him. Now our own command does too. I won't let him die. Anyone listening? We need a way out. Fast. He closed the comm and waited. In the dark, Kyle approached him. They don't want me, he said softly. They want control. Raylan nodded. You already knew, didn't you? Yes. And what about the gate? Kyle looked up at the stars, his voice calm, distant. It's not a machine. Not really. It's a place, or a choice. Once opened, it changes everything. Good or bad? Kale turned to him. That depends on who walks through. A beep echoed in the cave. Raylan rushed back to the console. A new signal. Not military, not cold. A soft voice crackled through the static. Raylan, this is Dr. Arlen. You don't know me, but I knew Kale's father. I was part of Project U. Foran, the one that helped build the original hybrids. Your boy. He's not just special. He's evolution. Raylan gripped the mic. Can you help us? The voice paused. Then, if you can reach Outpost Xeno 9, there's a working gate there. It's hidden but still online. We buried it before the Empire fell. Kale can activate it. Only him. And what's on the other side? Hope? Or hell? I honestly don't know. But you're sure it works? No. But it's your only shot. Raylan sat in silence for a long time after the signal died. Ayla came beside him. You believe her? I don't have to. I believe in him. He looked at Kale. We find that gate. They moved at sunrise. The path was long, steep, crawling through ash and wind. On the second night, they saw lights in the sky. Dropships. Black. Silent. No flags, no human markings, but not Threx either. Something else. Something new. Raylan's old instincts screamed one word. Mercenaries hired ghosts, sent to clean up what governments couldn't. They're here for the boy, he whispered. Ayla held Kale close. We'll never outrun them. Raylan looked at the hills. We don't have to. He pulled out the last explosive charge from his bag. We just have to slow them down. At the foot of the pass to the old outpost, Raylan made a final stand. He set charges into the cliffs, turned the valley into a trap. When the mercs came, they came fast. In sleek armor, silent, like shadows with guns, Raylan opened fire. He hit 3 before they even saw him. He didn't stop. They returned fire, heavy, brutal, merciless. But Raylan stood tall. For the boy. for what came next. He hit the switch. The mountain roared. Rocks crashed. Fire bloomed. Bodies fell. Raylan disappeared in smoke and light. Ayla and Kale, high above, kept moving, through tears, through silence. Kale never looked back. The gate was close now. It called to him, not with words, but with memory. And in the burning valley below, something else moved. Not mercs, not Threx. A figure stepped out of the fire, untouched. Tall, black armor, a face like smooth glass. It looked toward the path the boy had taken, and whispered, "Target identified. Phase Omega begins." Last stand at the edge of the forest. The sky was burning behind them. Ash rained from the cliffs where Raylan made his final stand. Distant fire still lit the dark ridges, painting the clouds orange and red like a warning from the heavens. Ayla didn't look back. She held Kale's hand tight, her legs weak from running, her chest aching, her heart torn between grief and fear. But Kale, he didn't cry. He walked like he knew where to go. He walked like something was waiting for him. They reached the edge of the ancient forest just before dawn. The trees here were taller, older, almost unnatural. Branches shaped like metal, arms, bark that shimmered faintly in the mist. This place had not been touched by the war. Or maybe it had been hidden from it. "We're close," Kyle said softly. "To what?" "The gate." Ayla looked around. "Where is it?" Kyle pointed. "Forward, beneath the roots, buried." Meanwhile, beneath the mountain ruins, something else rose from the fire. It was not human. It was not Threx. It was something designed to hunt both. Omega, tall as a tank. Body like dark glass and carbon steel. No face, only a smooth mask with a single white circle in the center, a symbol of death and silence. It walked through the wreckage left by Raylan's explosives. Not even scratched. Omega scanned the smoke. Primary target, anomaly. Status, moving toward gateway. Secondary target, human resistance. Status, terminated. But then, a faint signal blinked on its display. Still alive. Omega turned its head slowly and walked toward the forest. At the forest heart, Kale knelt near the roots of a massive tree. He placed his hand on the ground. The earth trembled. Roots moved, twisting, pulling apart like old fingers opening after centuries of sleep. A circular door appeared. Metal. Old. Covered in symbols. It opened without sound. A tunnel led deep into the earth. Ayla stepped back. "This is the gate?" Kale nodded. "But it's not just a door," he said. "It's a memory, a choice. Once we enter, we don't come back the same." Ayla swallowed hard. "What's inside?" "Truth." "And the hunters?" Kale didn't answer, but his eyes said it all. They were coming. Above them, Omega reached the forest's edge. Behind him marched an army of black-armored mercs and rebuilt Threx soldiers. Cybernetic now, faster, colder. No thoughts. Just orders. They moved without sound. They were not here to talk. They were here to erase. Inside the gate tunnel, Kale and Ayla found a chamber filled with soft light. Alien tech covered the walls, but it wasn't war tech. It was peaceful, almost alive. Glowing symbols moved like rivers across the stone. Kale stepped into the center. A circular platform rose beneath his feet. The light responded to his body. A voice echoed through the chamber. Calm, genderless, ancient. Genetic match confirmed. "Welcome, child of Varin." Ayla stepped forward. "What is this place?" Kale didn't look back. "It's what my father died protecting. A key, a bridge, a way to rewrite what was broken. Can it stop them? Yes, but not alone." Above them, the forest exploded. Trees burned, rocks cracked. Omega had arrived, and with him, death. In the chamber, a sudden sound. Footsteps. Ayla turned, gun raised, but it wasn't an enemy. It was Raylan. Bloody, limping, alive. "You really thought I'd die that easy?" he said with a weak smile. Ayla ran to him. Tears broke free at last. How? Blew the ridge early. Buried myself in mud and hate. Got lucky. Found an old evac shaft. He looked at Kale. "You're ready?" Kale nodded. "They're almost here." The platform under Kale's feet began to rise. A beam of white light connected to the roof. The symbols in the chamber sped up. Outside, the forest shook again. The gate was waking up, and it was calling to Kale. But so was Omega. He burst through, the entrance tunnel like a shadow of death. Raylan fired. Ayla fired. Kale screamed. The ground shook violently, but Omega didn't fall. He walked through bullets like smoke. And then, he stopped. Only 10 meters from Kale, the white circle on his face dimmed. "You are the last," Omega said. "The seed. The code. The end." Kyle looked up, standing tall in the light. "No. I'm the beginning," Omega charged. But the platform flashed. A shield of pure energy formed around Kale. Omega hit it full force and bounced back, stunned. Light surged through the room. The gate had chosen. Kale floated slightly, arms out, glowing. His voice was inside their heads now. "You built weapons from fear. I carry memory from love," Omega screamed. A high machine-pitched roar. The roof cracked. The gate's power burned brighter. And then, a pulse. It knocked Omega down, knocked the soldiers back, froze time for a breath. Raylan looked at Ayla. "This is it. What happens now? Either he ends everything, or everything ends him." Kale looked down at his hands. Energy pulsed through his veins. He could see the future. See every possible future. In one, Earth was burning. In another, peace bloomed between stars. In one, he was hunted forever. In one, he became the hunter. So, he made a choice. His voice echoed one last time. "I won't fight like you. I'll lead like him." He reached out and touched the gate. The light exploded. Omega screamed. The forest lit up like a second sun. Everything vanished in white. When the light faded, the chamber was empty. Kyle was gone. The gate had closed. Silent once again. Raylan dropped to his knees. Ayla stared at the spot where her son had stood. Only a faint glow remained, and a single word on the floor. Hope. Outside, Omega's army had vanished, dissolved like fog under sunlight. Without their master code, they were nothing. And Omega, his body stood frozen, like a statue, no longer a hunter, just a machine with no target. Raylan placed a hand on the cold wall. "You did it, kid. The story they will tell, 13 years later." The sky above Earth was peaceful. No warships, no ash, just blue skies and clean clouds. But peace is never just peace, not really. Peace is built on sacrifice. And sacrifice begins with a story. This one starts at the edge of the galaxy and ends in a classroom. A young cadet sat alone in a dusty library at the New Earth Alliance Academy. He was tall, quiet, sharp eyes, always scanning. Not out of fear, out of habit. His name was Kyle Thorne. The name had been changed, altered, not to hide, but to protect. Few knew who he really was. Even fewer knew what he had done. He read silently from a digital book titled The Forgotten, Battles of the Zeta Front. One page had no picture, just a name. Captain Raylan J. Thorne, presumed KIA, Zeta 6 Siege. Kale touched the name gently. "You're not forgotten," he whispered. In the hall outside, a group of students walked past. One stopped and peeked in. "You still reading those old war logs?" she asked, half teasing. Kale smiled faintly. "They're not old, not to me." She rolled her eyes and left, but one other voice stayed behind. "You always feel it, don't you?" it said. Kale turned. An older man stood at the far corner of the room, half-shadowed, wearing a long coat. His face was scarred and his left arm was synthetic. Human, but marked. Cale's eyes narrowed. I know you. You should. I was on the other side once, before I switched sides. You were Threx. The man nodded. Was. Now I'm just watching. Like he did. Cale tilted his head. Why now? The man stepped forward and handed him a small chip. Old, cracked, because they're starting to tell the story wrong. Cale plugged it into the reader. Static. Then a voice, raspy, tired, familiar. If you're hearing this, kid, then I didn't make it. Or maybe I did and just wanted you to hear me again. Cale's hands trembled slightly. It was Raylan. His voice, his message, his goodbye. You were never just some kid. You were a symbol. You were everything they were afraid of, and everything they needed. Don't let them turn you into a weapon. Don't let them erase what we fought for. Be better than me. Be better than all of us. Lead. But don't forget where you came from. Don't forget her. Don't forget why you stayed human. The message ended, but Cale didn't move. Not for a long time. Outside Earth's orbit, in the shadows of Jupiter's moons, something stirred. A small ship, ancient but active, powered on for the first time in years. Its design was alien. But inside, something human slept in cryo. Ela. Her chamber slowly thawed. A voice whispered from the ship's walls. Gate signal received. Anomaly returning. Her eyes opened. Not aged, not broken, but alive. And she whispered one name. Kyle. Back on Earth, Cale stood at the highest point of the academy, a long glass bridge that overlooked the training fields. He wore a cadet's uniform, but beneath it was something older, a core of energy, a memory of light, a mark left by the gate. He still didn't fully understand what it had done to him. It didn't make him immortal or invincible, but it changed how he saw the universe. He could hear things others couldn't, sense things far away, feel when something wrong was coming, and now he felt it, a dark presence moving in the stars. Not Threx, not mercenaries, something older, colder, from before the wars. He opened a comm channel to the council. We need to talk, he said. About what? Kyle turned his gaze to the stars. About what's waking up. Years earlier, in the gate chamber after the light faded, Raylan didn't die. He woke beneath the ruins, broken but alive. Omega was gone. The army was gone. And Cale was just a whisper in the wind. But the message was left behind, etched into the wall. I chose hope. Raylan lived in the shadows. For years, healing, hiding. He watched Earth from far away, saw the lies begin to grow. The child was dangerous. The gate was a weapon. The heroes were soldiers, but he knew the truth. And he waited, until now. On the edge of known space, a secret moon flickered to life, and in the darkness beyond it, a massive ship blinked into existence. Not human, not Threx, not anything in the old records. It had no crew, only voices, only hunger, and one name repeated on its signal. Over and over, Cale, Cale, Cale. Earth Command intercepted the signal. They ran it through every filter. Only one. Translation made sense. The key must return, or the gate will reopen. Back in the academy, Cale stood before a group of elite cadets. You all trained for peace, he said. But now, we train for something else. Someone raised a hand. A war? Kyle shook his head. Not war. What then? Kyle stared at them, his voice steady. Clear. The reckoning. On a distant planet, a statue still stood, half covered in vines, weathered by time, a human figure holding a rifle in one hand, a child in the other. The plaque read, he stayed behind, so we could move forward. Captain Raylan J. Thorne, Protector of Peace, First Guardian of the Gate. This was not the end. It never really ends. But when they tell the story, they won't just speak of war. They'll speak of a man who stayed. A Child who chose mercy over power, and a world that was worth protecting, even after the fire, even after the silence. This is the story they will tell.